Oh, 5 months. But okay, I'm fine with her.
But we'll still put her away. We'll
Well,
put her bed away.
I found out when I had 2 cats. I got kittens.
Oh my God.
Right now? Good evening, everyone. My name is Eileen DeSorger. Testing.
Yep, you can hold it.
Is it on? Testing. Testing.
So we are ready to begin.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Eileen DeSorger, and I'm very honored that State Representative Denise Garlick asked me to introduce her this evening. When I was growing up, we had current events every Monday at the supper table, and my father often shared inspirational quotes. And when it comes to public speaking, the one that I recall is a quote from the 32nd President, Franklin Roosevelt, about public speaking. Be sincere, be brief, and be seated. And at least one of my brothers missed the be brief part. Now, Denise has always served our town with quality, responsible decision-making, returned since she was first elected in 2010. The integrity that she brings to her work as a state representative is impressive. Denise is caring. She's a great listener. She has empathy, and she's compassionate. These are qualities that Denise brought to the State House from her long career as a registered nurse. Now, as a public official and a town resident, I saw over and over again that Denise is always at events in our town, and how well she connects with so many different types of people. She has generously supported the Medfield Lions Club, the American Legion Auxiliary Girls State Program, and the Medfield Foundation, just to mention a few. Lastly, I'll conclude with what my husband Brian suggested I use for the entire introduction. And here's Denise.
So, good evening to everyone, to my friends, my neighbors, to new acquaintances. It is the reason I serve the people of Medfield. It is because of the people of Medfield. I want to take a moment and ensure that I'm on good sound, and I want to acknowledge that this evening our town administrator is here, members of our select board, Gus Murbury and Pete Peterson, are here. Our chief of police is here, as well as several officers that I have already thanked for their public service. And our superintendent is currently meeting with the school committee and hoping to get here in the latter part of the program. I want to thank everyone who is present. When Eileen says that I am in Medfield frequently, I want you to know this is the third time this week, and I'm still coming to a party tomorrow night. So let me begin. So when we start the report to the Medfield community, I want you to know this is the 13th year that I have delivered this report. We set it up so that we have a discussion about the community. I talk about budget and legislation as well. And at 7:30, or I might beg you for 5 extra minutes, we will move to the discussion part of the program, and we are going to be honored to recognize a student from Medfield High as we do that transition. Hannah, if you could help us go through the logistics.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Hannah Lee. I am Rep. Garlick's legislative aide. Tonight we'll be also streaming this through Medfield TV and on Zoom, so we will be monitoring the chat and our voicemail. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to send that to our Zoom or our voicemail. We will be monitoring that throughout this evening. To be respectful of everyone's time, we will be ending promptly at 8 p.m. Any questions that are unanswered, our staff will reach out to you after this event tonight.
Thank you. I want you to know this is a picture of my entire staff, but I would like the staff that is present with me this evening to introduce themselves and a brief sentence or two about their incredible work.
So hi everyone, I'm Colin Fedor, I'm Chief of Staff for the office, and I get to work closely with Rep. Garlick and everybody here to make sure across district budget legislation and the committee work, we're doing everything we can to support Rep. Garlick.
I'm Maureen Callahan. I serve as district director, and I do municipal issues, like I keep an eye on both Dover and Needham. Those are my districts. And then I work on a lot of constituent cases. So if anyone's having trouble with an agency, I'm the person to call.
My name is Sophia Medfield, and I'm a legislative aide. I assist Rep. Garlick with policy and budget items. We'll have a printout about our key budget items that we'll mention in this presentation if anybody would like more detail here.
So thank you. Olivia?
Hannah already introduced herself. Hi, my name is Olivia Mathot. I answer the phones in the office, and I also handle Representative Garlick's schedule. So if you ever have any events that you would like the representative to come to, or if you have a meeting that you would like to have with her, then please feel free to call the office or email her with the date, time, location, and a specific organization if there is one. That's very helpful.
If anyone thinks that Olivia's job sounds simple, you are mistaken. All right. So I see many familiar faces. For people who I am meeting for the first time, I represent more than 40,000 people, the entire town of Needham, the entire town of Dover, and precincts 1 and 2 in Medfield. But as I always like to say, all of Medfield in my heart. My current positions in the State House is I am the House Chair of the Joint Committee on Education, and I am also the elected chair on a permanent and funded commission on the status of individuals with disabilities. As you look at the rest of the slide, you'll see that I have held many positions in the 13 years that I've served. All of those positions are additive and have informed the state representative that I am today. And we can move right ahead on that leadership slide. So how do I actually do my job? How do I actually structure it? How do I figure it out? There is no manual on being a state representative, and every district is unique unto itself. It is by listening to your concerns. I listen to your concerns in these variety of ways, and I hope you see that there's different modes. I have learned very clearly that people today are gathering information in different ways, and you have to find the lane in which they're looking for their information or sharing their information. I do community outreach as well, not only through individuals in those modes of communication, but through our great civic organizations that we have in Medfield, and many ways that people of Medfield come together. How does that look in serving you then? What does that mean? This is a pie chart of what, when we look at all those calls, in a year I'll get more than 800 unique callers. Usually the people that call once, they call again and again, but we only count the unique caller, then their name. We get more than 300 requests for assistance. The primary, when you're looking at this pie chart, you'll see that we deal with the RMV a lot. We deal with times when you're banging your head against state agencies and trying to help you with that. I do a lot of work around social services and how to do that. But when I say that each district is unique unto itself, we are a very policy-oriented district, right? That there is great concern. That's not true for all representatives, but in our district, people care a great deal about policy, and there's a lot of communication about bills, about budget, about legislation. The ways I support the committee then works out this way. Our town administrator is here, and it is this person who deserves the credit for the money that comes to the town. But the way, when you look at those grants, but the way that I can serve is if I know grants are available, or if I am asked to write a letter of support, and I do that. But you are in very, very good hands with this town administrator that seems to be finding pennies everywhere. So let's talk about the budget. I talked about how I get information, how I begin to fashion my work, what it is I'm responding to. You all know that I always say, and I have said for 13 years, a good idea without money, just a good idea, okay? So let's talk about the budget process. On the bottom, on the footer on this slide behind me, is the budget process. It's hard to read. It's a hard process to follow. Presently, we have received the governor's budget in January. We are looking at the governor's budget. That is not the definitive budget. It is not the final budget. That budget comes to the House. The House then looks at the governor's budget, talks about priorities, talks about policies that we want to enact, talks about how we're going to fund different initiatives. We go and meet in the week after April school vacation, and the House brings out a budget. That budget is not definitive, that budget is not final, that budget goes to the Senate. The Senate looks at it in the exact same way. They meet the week before Memorial Day, they produce a budget. It is not definitive, it is not final. Those three budgets go into a conference committee, and it is the conference committee between the leaders of those three, the governor's office and the two chambers, that makes the final budget. I wanted to really discuss with you about, when we're talking about budget, where we are in the Commonwealth right now, and it's a hard picture to follow. And I thank my staff for making this graph because it really gives us a sense of kind of the up and downs. In 2022, we had a budget surplus. We had so much money in this Commonwealth, we didn't know what we were doing with it. And it wasn't just our revenue, it was because the federal government, through President Biden, was pouring money into our state and other states, trying to keep the country stable, trying to sustain services, trying to make sure that at the end of COVID, we were all going to be able to move on. And we saw a great deal of money at that time. We had so much money that we had more money than in a formula, antique formula related to Prop 2.5 called 62F, that said if you had more money than a certain amount of money you needed to do in the budget, you needed to return it to the taxpayers. And I hope that you remember that you did get a rebate on your taxes, but it was to the tune of $3 billion. $3 billion. We had a real sensitivity about the stabilization budget. Massachusetts has a very strong, I believe we're the third strongest stabilization budget in the country at $8.8 billion. We protected that, even giving back $3 billion, we protected that because our bond rating, which is the way we plan for future projects, is based on our rating, and the rating is based on your stabilization fund, and so we were trying to balance those two things. Many people in the Commonwealth voted for the Fair Share Amendment, right? Fair Share Amendment was a tax on the amount of earned income, not your value, not your total assets, but your earned income of over $1 million in 1 year, right? From that vote, we enacted the Fair Share Amendment and received $1 billion more into the state revenue, right? Doing that, feeling that we had enough resources, we enacted a tax reform package, right? And the tax reform package I'm going to talk about in detail again, but it was like, well, we're in a good place, we have people that need help, we can now do this tax reform package, and I voted on that as well. We then continued to have good revenue growth, and now the bottom has fallen out on us. The revenue report from 2 days ago is worse than our grim predictions of what it's going to be. And it's because our revenue has dropped, and it's for unpredictable things too, that we hadn't anticipated. And given that anticipation of this drop in revenue, the governor did 9 C cuts. And 9 C cuts is an authority she has to cut during the fiscal year, to cut monies to agencies and to cut money that was coming to the local areas. It's a devastating thing. We haven't seen it for years in the Commonwealth, and it felt like a whipsaw. First we got too much money, then we have enough money in the stabilization, then all of a sudden we don't have enough money. So it's been a real hard year to predict this real economic volatility. And now the governor's budget has come out at $56 billion. When I started to serve, and I should have double-checked this number, but my colleague told me I got elected in 2010, the state budget was $29 billion. We are now at $56 billion. So there's a lot going on this budget issue. So what did the tax reform package do, and who did it do it for? It was tax reform for children and families. We lifted the cap on the number of children you could get the tax credit for, and we increased that actual amount. We tried to help seniors. We tried to help seniors by increasing the senior center, the senior circuit breaker, which you may know is a program that seniors, through their volunteer efforts in a municipality, can get a write-off on some of the taxes that they owe. We did work for the working people and change the criteria on the state income tax. We did a lot of work around descendants. This is a big issue in Massachusetts. So the issue around descendants is actually the estate tax, right, that people were calling the death tax, right? In Massachusetts, $1 million. For many people, their estate in Massachusetts, because our high cost of living is valued much higher than $1 million. So we've increased that level to $2 million. And we did some rental relief. So the budget, when it comes to hit home, was not only those big things, right, but it's also what local aid is and what Chapter 70 money is. Local aid is money that comes into the town that is unrestricted. The town can use to meet particular or unique initiatives that it's engaged in that other towns may or may not be doing. Chapter 70 is the education money. Both of these follow a formula, and you'll see for the local aid, I've got FY23, FY24, in the proposed for FY25, there's no way that's going to be the final number, but that's the number we have, right? And you see incremental increases in that. Chapter 70 is the money that comes into the town on a formula, and the special education circuit breaker is also a formula, but we don't have that number because it has to be calculated after you know the number of students, after you know the scope of the services they need, and it's money that is reimbursed to the town. You don't get it ahead of time, you get it back. And the Chapter 90 is the roads and bridges number. We're usually around $200 million. In the year before, a year ago, January, when it seemed we had a lot of money, more money was put into that by Governor Healy. The way we support Medfield residents is around earmarks. Earmarks, negative people will tell you, is pork in the budget. I will tell you an earmark is when a representative knows their district well and knows that there may not be money in the municipal budget to do something that's important in the community, but it's a valuable thing in the community. In our community, I was able to get $10,000 in the budget for our food pantry. Our food pantry, coming out of COVID, was in need of resources, and they are an extraordinary group of people. Rep. Vaughn actually worked on the tennis court issue, and I was glad to partner with him on that. But he was the one who was able to get that money for us. For both of us, we got a 9C cut. This small amount of money, but you know, a 50% cut is a big cut. So that was very hard, very hard. And I expressed my dismay, and someone said to me, "Are you not pleased with the governor?" And I said, "No, I'm just disappointed, disappointed." So in the budget, this $56.2 billion budget, this is a way to look at it, how it is divided, and as Sophia said, we have a handout for the particular areas of the budget that might be important to you: public health, mental health, the environmental agencies, all of that. We can give you more detail. The fair share spending, now remember I talked to you, this was the fair share amendment that we got $1 billion from. In the law, it said it had to be divided between education and transportation, and you can see here that this is how we actually utilize that money. So now, we know what, I know what as a state representative I want to do. I know where the money is, so what is it I'm actually doing here? So, contrary to the press, I want you to know the press will infer to you that legislators are not often in the State House. The way legislators are called in the House of Representatives, you are called to formal session. I have formal session about once a week. There are many weeks I don't have formal session. But my office is in the State House. My colleagues who live in Greenfield, their offices are out in those districts there. I am in the State House. If this says 70 times, I'll tell you I'm in the State House 4 times that amount. And the work that has to happen, my son once was very bemused that I had compared myself to Tom Brady. And I said, you know, he only has 1 game a week, but he's got to get ready the whole week for that game, right? And that's my work in the State House. So when you hear that there's a limited amount of time, that doesn't define the work. It only defines the time of the formal session. The House held 116 sessions, and in that time I sponsored 32 bills. So there's more than 6,000 bills before the legislature presently, many that have been sorted as of yesterday. But the 32 bills that I represented, if you could go to the next slide, Maureen, is certainly, you know how long and hard I've worked on strengthening public health. And you have great people in the town of Medfield who are also doing that work and trying to maximize, even before the legislation was developed, the ability to share services and how we can build on the work. We learned so much during COVID about what our need was, how fractured the public health system is. And I have worked on this issue since 2014. I sponsor a bill on workplace violence that deals with healthcare workers in healthcare facilities. There has always been violence in those facilities. I actually have a scar on my face from probably 30 years ago caring for a patient in an acute care hospital. But what we've found through the decrease in staff, the staff reductions, the decrease in security that we see in hospitals, and the increase in the stress and anxiety and the presence of substance use disorders, the element of workplace violence has escalated, and we need a plan. We need a plan to deal with it. I have a bill on veteran survivor benefits, and when I tell you that my work is based in the people that I represent, I want you to know this bill was born at the Needham VFW post, 2498 at the bar. And in discussions with veterans, it has been years and years and years since the veterans annuity has been increased. The annuity is the money to the survivor of a disabled veteran, and I am trying to increase that money, and it has been a harder lift than it ever should be, let me tell you. And you know I have consistently worked on children's mental health, and I am carrying a major bill on that in this session, as well as many, many bills in the Education Committee related to social emotional learning. So key legislative actions, right? So in this, and now I'm speaking about the whole session, key legislative actions related to tax relief, to wage equity, where the state is one of the very few states that now says there has to be transparency in wages that people are receiving. And we believe it's going to make a difference in the way people can negotiate by gender, by race, and improve their working conditions. A huge bill on long-term care. This bill on long-term care, which is nursing homes, has been in the process for more than 10 years. It has to do with access to nursing homes, the affordability of nursing homes, where the workforce is in nursing homes, the quality of care in nursing homes, and it is long overdue. This is one of the horrors that we learned during COVID, was how poorly prepared nursing homes were to care for our most vulnerable and fragile individuals in the Commonwealth. A simple bill on time off for voting, right? So we have mail-in voting, we have early voting. Some people want to vote in person regardless, and not everyone has the right to get time off from voting. With 3 days' notice now in the Commonwealth, you can get paid time off for voting. The gun safety bill, important to many, many people in our Commonwealth, important to people in my district, was a direct result of the Supreme Court actions. If you remember, it was called the Bruin decision. But what the Bruin decision did was it actually talked about many issues, but mostly of a concern in Massachusetts was about open carry of guns. So Massachusetts, which is ranked #1 in gun safety in the country, right, with the least amount of homicides by gun, because of our gun safety rules, wanted to codify, wanted to get ahead of the Supreme Court before people interpreted what they were saying in ways that were detrimental. We passed a gun safety bill in the House. I want you to know that every single person who contacted me, not by a form letter, but if it was your contact in person, contact that I could see that you had written email, I contacted every single one of those people, whether they were pro or con. And for the people who were opposed to my voting on that bill, I met with them in person at Needham Town Hall, and we had set up tables so it looked more like a dining room table than some kind of audience participation, and we sat and talked about those issues. I will tell you at the end, I don't think anybody changed their opinion, but nobody went away angry, and that's a big accomplishment in these days. I have 5 minutes, so we have to go a little faster here. All right, so the strong leadership piece, I want you to know, is the way that I have participated, the initiatives I have led, particularly around public health. This is a picture from the public health. And these are the policy and budget issues that I'm hoping that you will watch, that I certainly am watching moving forward. And I'm very open to answering any questions that we talk about how we're going to do that. And I just want to express my gratitude to the Medfield community, to all the ways that I am able to engage, to the tremendous community that you all are, the friends and neighbors that you are, the way you are approaching the needs of your younger people and your older people as well. I'm very proud to represent Medfield. I want to thank Medfield TV. You know, I have learned there's a lot of people watching cable television. They'll say to me, you know, I don't know how I saw that, but I was watching you, and they are watching. And certainly direct email communications in the Garlick Press. We have 3,900 people that subscribe to the Garlick Press. We have 58 contact campaigns that we've had, 58 times we've outreached. And we have fresh news every Thursday, which we call Fresh Garlic. And this is a way that you can contact me. When we get to the question and answer period, I do want you to know I was trying to figure out the questions I might get. I might have slides that will help us in that discussion. I want to take a moment at this time, though, before we transition into the question and answer period. There is an extraordinary young woman here whose name is Mia Remington. Mia Remington is a person who has been brought to my attention by Eileen DeSorga. Your work, Mia, is extraordinary. Your resume in the way, not only your academic achievements, but your commitment to the community, to your leadership, certainly participating in Girls State and all the other ways that you have been a role model and you have been an example of the students in Medfield and how very proud we are of all the students and in the ways that you represent them here tonight. So I wanted to give you a citation, Mia, if you'd like to come up. And the citation is from the House of Representatives to Mia Remington in recognition of your character, your leadership, your academic excellence, and the commitment to your peers, to your school, to your community, and all of the town of Medfield. Thank you so much for all you do, Mia. Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure. And this is for you. And this is the moment that somebody that loves the two of us should take a picture. There. There. Okay, thank you, Mia, for everything. And with that, good to my word, my clock says 7:29, am I right? We're ready to move into the discussion period. This is the most important part of the presentation. I report to you because I want you to know I hold myself accountable to you. Thank you very much this evening. I hold myself accountable to you, but this is the portion in which you actually get to share with me your issues, your concerns, clarify some information. So let's do this for the next 30 minutes. Anyone who would like to have a comment? Yes.
Hi, Becca Cornett. I have a question. I know that a couple months ago, maybe the House passed the gun safety legislation, and the Senate is currently looking, or did they, the Senate just passed a version as well, correct?
Right.
So how does the process
Right.
work now?
So think a little bit about that budget process. So the House comes out with a bill, right, that we vote on in the affirmative. The Senate comes out with their own bill. Some things that are similar, some things that are not similar. The House bill was, I think, close to 135 pages. The Senate bill, not so much, right? They had taken a lot of those issues out. The Senate then votes, and then we have a conference committee. And on the conference committee, you have two of the leaders from the House who are from the majority party and one person from the minority party, two leaders from the Senate from the majority party, one person from the minority party. Anything that is similar in both bills, that's done. Anything that is different in both bills has to be negotiated. What is present in both bills that I am very pleased about is it deals with this whole issue around ghost guns. And so I think that is one of the most pressing issues that technology-wise we have to keep up with. What is similar in both bills but not exact is around where you can open carry a gun and where you cannot open carry a gun. And that has to get resolved in Massachusetts. So I think that we're going to see negotiations take place. Massachusetts is very proud of its gun safety laws. They're very hard to pass. They're very hard to pass. Any other questions or concerns? Yes. Hi.
I'm Jeanette Rule.
Hi, Jeanette.
There are a bunch of climate change related bills that I can't enumerate all of them, but I did see climate change in one of those hexagons on your slide there. So can you comment on?
Sure. So as I begin to comment, I want to say two things, Jeanette, if you'd give me this. Eileen Murphy is also on Zoom, and Scott McDermott is on Zoom. And I would so appreciate the work of all three members of our select board. But Scott McDermott is retiring this year as our town moderator. And I just want to say publicly that the integrity that he brought to that position is one of the things that has been a strength of Medfield and the way the people in Medfield can talk to each other. So Jeanette, let's talk about the environment and climate, okay? There are many, many bills that are pending in the legislature, and all bills in the legislature through something that's called Joint Rule 10 had to have a report as of yesterday. And the report is what's favorable in moving forward and what's going to study, which is either really going to be studied or it's just a really nice way to say no, right? So all of those are being sorted, but there's many extensions. You know, these are big bills. We received them last February, and by this February, we're supposed to have a report. I have 350 bills in my committee. I can't tell you how overwhelming that was getting to yesterday. The issue about climate in Massachusetts is that we are leading on many issues related to the climate, particularly around clean energy. And have made a very strong commitment on wind. Not quite as strong a commitment as I think we should on solar. But the way that we are looking at that issue is certainly for someone like you, Jeanette, who has worked so long and so hard on issues related to the climate and environment and what we've seen and the work you've done here in this community, right? That is so very important. But there's also another aspect as we talk about clean energy and these jobs. It is jobs. We are making jobs in this Commonwealth while we are moving forward. We have a roadmap, the 2050 roadmap, in which we are trying to meet climate goals. And I would tell you, if we're not exactly on track, we're very close. We have a governor who's deeply, deeply committed to these issues. I deal with Jeff Roy, who is the chair of the Joint Committee on, it's called TUE, Telecommunications, Utility, and Energy, Environment, Energy, and that work that they have done related particularly to wind energy is leading. Massachusetts is a leading state on that issue. So we're doing our work. It's hard work. I think we're all getting better at discussing it and beginning to understand it. And I really admire the fact that, Jeanette, I think you understood it before a lot of us did. So thank you for your leadership on that. I think we talked plastic bags last time, right? Any other thoughts? Yes.
I actually wanted to ask your opinion because I know you talk a lot about early childhood education and childcare.
Yeah.
Have you heard about the act supporting parents running for office that is being passed? I wanted to know your opinion on that. It would be using some of the campaign funds for childcare, which is great.
Right. I'm very aware of that bill, and you know, I would support that bill. So the question Mia is asking is around early education and childcare, and I am going to pivot on that one. But her real question was about parents being able to use campaign funds to be able to run for office. I actually support that, and I'll tell you why. Because there are so many aspects about running for office that can eliminate young parents from being able to do childcare, being able to figure out how to do services. You know, when you're really running, when you've got a campaign, it is 24/7. And so to have resources would help. I would tell you, though, we better build very good firewalls on that because the potential for abuse is also high. So I support the concept. I want to see the firewalls. But can I talk a little bit about early education and childcare? So can you pull up the slide on that? Are you already there? Right. So this effort that I'm engaged in as the chair of education, the major focus in the last year has been early education and childcare. We learned, particularly during COVID, that the need, and this was part of the money that poured into the state, was to support early education and childcare, that not only the issue that I am deeply committed to, which is quality early education and childcare, but the needs of the workforce to be able, people can't return to work when there is a small child at home that needs care. So in my work with my committee members, I have traveled all over the Commonwealth. I think we even have a picture of that. And I went as far as North Adams and Pittsfield, and certainly through Boston, out in Lowell, up to Boxborough. And we visited early education and child care centers all over the Commonwealth. We talked to people everywhere. There are ways in which we serve our youngest learners, right? And those youngest learners can be as young as 6 weeks old, let me tell you, right? And it is those in most need, right, that would get subsidized care from the state, that are living in poverty, and to get these good quality services, we're spending some of that money, all the ways up to presently, there's for-profit chains in Massachusetts that are doing early education and childcare and making a lot of money. We're trying to figure out presently how we do accessible. We have waiting lists. There's 21,000 children on a waiting list right now in Massachusetts for early education and childcare, and we think that's the tip of the iceberg. Those are just the people who told us they want to have it. It's not even the people that we're not sure who are out there, right? So accessible, and that accessibility is tied into the workforce. We don't have a strong early educator workforce, and that is because we pay these individuals so poorly. And I want you to tell you on a personal note, we pay for what we value. America says they love their children, but we don't pay the people that are taking care of our children. I don't understand that, right? So how are we going to increase that early educator workforce? How are we going to get people who are in high school say, yeah, I think I'd like to do that? How do we get them through the programs that they need to go through to have a degree, to be able to be in those settings, to be able to lead in those settings? That's the accessibility piece. The affordability piece, that takes a lot of work because it's not one system, right? It's not even, if you think Chapter 70 is hard when we're talking about K through 12, the affordability piece in this mosaic of the way early education and childcare is delivered in the Commonwealth is very hard to follow the breadcrumbs on that. And then the last piece is we haven't really defined what quality early education and childcare is. You know, there are some people that want to test 3-year-olds. You know, I'm not in that camp, right? Or there's other people who think that as long as the parents can go to work and the kid is safe, that's enough. I'm not in that camp either. So what does quality early education and childcare mean? What does it mean to the people of the Commonwealth? What does it mean to the future, right? You know, you see a lot of stuff in the news right now around early literacy, a bill that I worked very hard on and came out of our committee. Well, early literacy starts as soon as a little one can recognize shapes, can begin to find pictures in a larger picture with lots of other things. How are we going to do that? So quality early education and childcare is going to make a major difference in what our young learners have. And there's a great phrase, if we don't get to a question about early literacy, there's a great phrase that it's not my original phrase, I know it isn't, but I can't find who said it. But it's that you learn how to read by 3rd grade. And by that time, then you read to learn. And if you miss that transition, if you haven't learned how to read well by 3rd grade, the rest of your life, right, all your learning is in jeopardy. And today, what have we learned, particularly from all the people in this room, is you have to be ready to learn your whole life long. You're no longer all set and ready to move on. You have to learn. So the work on early education and childcare, on early literacy, is profound work. And I'm glad to be part of that work, but it's hard. It's hard to figure out how to do this. And it is expensive beyond words at a time when the Commonwealth now doesn't have a lot of resources. You know, there's a price tag on the early education and childcare bill that was proposed that is not what we're looking at, but it was $1.5 billion. That's how expensive it is. These are the trips, and these are my committee members. Yeah. Hi.
You do a great job of communication.
Thank you.
Just wanna let you know,
As do you, Chris Potts.
I've been very happy to see that there's been bipartisan support. In Massachusetts, it was for HD 1518. It was the tax credit to encourage subscriptions to community-based news outlets. And then also at the congressional level, the HR 3940, but that kind of fizzled. You know, when you look at the statistics that show that the total number of newspapers in Massachusetts shrank 27% from 2004 to 2019, and circulation is down 44% during that same time period. Then you also see research out there, you've seen the Brookings Institute put out some really great research about the financial impact of local reporting and how the checks and balances that local reporting provides actually saves taxpayers money, because the credit agencies are looking for that kind of checks and balances in the community. So I guess my question is, where do you see potential, I guess, within the state and legislature to try and push something forward to boost up local journalism?
So I'll tell you, everybody heard the question, right? I'm hoping our viewers have heard this as well. And I want to acknowledge that our superintendent has arrived. Thank you. So this issue around communication is huge. I spend a lot of time, when you saw that slide about, you know, I send out an email, I send a Zoom, you know, I'm looking at, you know, people that are sending me letters, handwritten letters still, we're making phone calls, right? I'm constantly trying to find ways to communicate with people because people don't communicate in the same way anymore. One of the issues that I am most concerned about as a state representative, as a person, as a resident in my hometown, as a human being, is the level of civil discord presently. The way people are talking to each other and the way that they are, in my opinion, failing to engage in critical thinking, failing to look at information on both sides of an issue. I think, and this is personally, I want you to know that in all the years that I have lived, right, but particularly in the years that I have served, I have never doubted anyone's motivation, right? I have never agreed with everyone all the time, right? But I didn't come to it from a place where I doubted their motivation, right? I didn't think because someone didn't agree with me that they were evil or that they were stupid or any of that, right? I see that in people all the time now where we're doubting people's motivation. And it is the most dangerous thing we can do. And I think when I have thought about this, I think people are overwhelmed by the news. They have overwhelmed by the events that we have gone through. They want to be connected. They get one piece of information and they decide that's their issue and they join that tribe. The only way we break that down is through better communication, that we make sure that the information people have is objective, and that we allow people to make the decisions they want and need to make. And I want to go back to that gun control thing, right? The way that the community came together, regardless of where you were in that issue, was sitting around a table together and talking about the issue, right? And then saying, well, these are the pieces we agree on. I don't agree with you on that. And then people were able to move on. We have to work harder and we have to be better critical thinkers. And you're right, Chris, we have to find good modes of communication with trustworthy information and move away from opinions and try and get back to facts and then really figure it out for ourselves. It's really hard work, but we have to do it. Thank you. Okay. Any other thoughts? Eileen DeSorga. This will be the killer question. It's always my friends who ask me the killer question.
Well, first of all, the governor and the lieutenant governor, it's almost once a week, and I'm very glad they're doing it. Housing, low income and moderate housing is a priority for them. They're in the news all the time with that. I mean, Medfield is making progress with purchasing homes and townhouses that you own. And it's the people with the higher income that are buying those. The moderate and the low income people want apartments. When I left the housing authority, there was 500 people on the list, waiting list, until the village of Medfield. I mean, I'm not going to go on and on, but the land that's been sitting there since 1974 next to it. I mean, it's state land under the housing that's for low and moderate income people. I mean, it's a sin that all these people, I can name over the past 20 years, I can name probably 100 people that wanted to be on that list, raise their children in this town. They don't have the money to buy pay a $90,000 downsizing home in the town they grew up in, the town they raised their kids in. They want to retire and go to a moderate, low income apartment. And that location is perfect. They walk uptown, they walk to the library, they walk to the plays and the schools. I mean, I've given rides, and it was terrible during, my mom lived there for 22 years. During COVID, I couldn't pick anyone up. You know, they're walking, some of them are walkers to walk up town to go to Brothers to bring their groceries back. They couldn't give them a ride. But I mean, it's an ideal location for elderly people. And it's the low and moderate income apartments that are key.
Right. So you're touching on the whole crisis of housing in the Commonwealth, right? And where people are, how they want to live, where they want to live. This is the #1 crisis, and it's not even an issue. It is a crisis in the Commonwealth around housing. And there's a difference, you know, in my world, it's very important to define your terms, right? When we're talking about deeply affordable, like really low income, right? Those are individuals that need public housing. When we talk about moderate affordable, I'm never quite sure what people are talking about. When we talk about affordable, not so much for a lot of people. You'd be stunned at the formulas for how you figure out that money. And it's a very high amount in the town of Medfield, which is, to its credit, a very affluent town, but it's a very high amount to be considered affordable housing. The governor has brought forward this $4 billion housing bond bill. I don't know how that moves forward. I'm certainly following it, but it is $50 million for public housing. The work that I have done around housing has certainly been, you know, watching carefully the Medfield Housing Authority, you know, visiting Tilden Village, understanding how we were going to hopefully move there, and then I didn't see that movement. I'm working with the Needham Housing Authority that is trying very hard to renovate and add to a 50-year-old housing development that very little has been done for its upkeep over the years. I'm disappointed to have to tell you. You know, the issue about housing, though, becomes really tricky because we all know the problem. Everybody knows the problem. You could top anyone on the street and say, do you think housing is a problem in Massachusetts? Our kids can't live in the towns they grew up in. Our older adults can't stay in the town and downsize, that where all their connections are. And I would make the case to you that their social emotional health is tied to their ability to stay in that thing. Right? Everybody agrees on the problem. The issue is we don't agree on the solutions. And even if we agree on the solution in theory, we might not agree on that solution in our community. So we have to work harder on this issue. The thing I think that will help is more resources. So I'm very committed to this bill from the governor going forward, and it's not $4 billion off the top for people who are like, what are you talking about? You just told us you didn't have the money. It's bonding money and how we can actually look to the future. But everybody has to think about this issue. If you are, so let me say this. This is one of the issues we're talking about. You have to stay open. You have to listen to what people are talking about, and you have to be able to balance that. People who want something around housing that you don't want, it's not because, don't doubt their motivation. You know, debate the issue and do it on the facts and figure out. Medfield is doing tremendous work, not only on the Medfield State Hospital property. Anyone who watched the Select Board meeting Tuesday night and the Select Board members' commitment to that project and sees how complicated it is, right? It is mind-boggling how complicated this project is. You need local support, you need state money, you need federal money, you need tax credits. It takes a lot to move these things. You can't do it just because you want to. You need a whole team working to make it happen. You know, Medfield is looking at the Tilden Village thing, and we've gone back, we've had several iterations of that, right? I think when you don't see, Medfield is grappling with the issue of the MBTA communities. It's going to take a lot of communication on that. We have to figure out not only what we want to do with that, but what the impact is if we do it, what the impact is if we don't, how we can move forward, right? Stay open, do the hard work, figure out what you want for your town. These are the decisions that are going to make a difference. And what's happening here in Medfield is happening in 351 cities and towns across Massachusetts. And it is the issue we do have to deal with. Hello, you.
Fortunately, I'm on the housing authority.
Thank you for your public service.
Most of the housing, these apartments that they're building,
Yeah.
Medfield has only one building, which is where the Legion built, that has
Right.
elevators.
Yeah.
You can't build it just saying, oh, it's only 2 floors, you don't need an elevator. Well, if it's for seniors, a 50-year-old doesn't want to run up and down those stairs. It's brutal.
Right.
I mean, tried doing it up in the town, well, the town hall's got one that works. When it doesn't work, it's a problem. But in the affordable ones, like they put up on our, behind my house on Hospital Road, you got $1 million, and the affordable one is maybe 700 or 800.
That's right. That's right.
Now, I find it hard to believe that all the people that move into this town, the guy 30 years old, is buying $1 million house, but he must have got $100 grand off his father or somebody. But they're gonna die with that house. What they're gonna do is turn it over as soon as the kids are out of school, and because they're not gonna be able to afford it unless they're making 150, maybe 180,000 a year. They must be paying 20,000 a month, some of them, and they've all got. And the ones who buying these houses, like the one beside me, they all got leased cars.
So,
Because they can't
so I think the people that can buy those houses are very fortunate. I'm concerned about good people, like these young people that work with me, and I don't know how they pay the rents. I truly don't know how they pay the rents I know they're paying, how they can save enough money that is ever going to be a down payment. I worry about the people that Eileen's concerned about, people older adults who want to stay here and there is no place. So you're just reiterating why we have to do this work. And we can't deny the high cost of living in Massachusetts. And there's a lot of good reasons for that. And there's a lot of people who can gripe about it, but let me tell you, they're not leaving Massachusetts either. The quality of life in this state matters to people. Education in this state matters to people. The safety we have and health and safety in this state matters to people, but we're paying a high cost of it. We have to figure out how we can balance this and rein this in, but people need to have homes, period.
Yeah, probably because of all the colleges and the industry coming in here to grab good guys, but
We are the good guys. We are the good guys. That is our quote from tonight.
hey, why don't you,
Yeah.
didn't sell your house and move up? I said, move up. I'm retired. I don't need a $20,000 tax house.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
The older person, he cannot downsize his house.
Well,
This is an affordable
Well,
apartment.
the issue is, you could sell that house and make a lot of money. Where are you going? Because everything else costs more. Everything else costs more. Yeah. So I think if anyone just heard that little voice, I wanted to make sure, and I apologize I didn't do this beginning. My husband Russell and my daughter Beth are here. Good Medfield people.
Another thing that the state shouldn't allow is these hospitals to buy all, each of them up, because they shut down, so like Native,
So we're just beginning to, hear more publicly discussed what has happened in the healthcare system. I will tell you, I have been a nurse since 1975, just for the record. The healthcare system is broken. It is broken, and we have to figure out how to fix it. We have people who are sick and injured and need services, who are waiting in emergency rooms for hours. We have people in acute care, and then they're waiting in corridors and they're waiting in hallways. We have people in acute care hospitals that are being discharged very quickly because that bed is needed. We have these nursing homes that don't have the staff that they need and the workforce to accept patients and keep them safe. We have rehab centers that are seeing people with traumatic injuries and cycling through them so rapidly that it takes my breath away. And we have millions and millions, beyond millions, billions of dollars invested in the Massachusetts healthcare system. I have long been the chief sponsor of the Medicare for All bill. The Medicare for All bill is a single payer bill. I have to be very honest with you and say it is not a vehicle that I think, we call bills in the State House a vehicle, right? It's not a vehicle that I think will pass, but it was always a vehicle for me to talk about what was happening in healthcare, where the redundancy was, and how we were wasting dollars that were needed for quality patient care. And that conversation I continue every single day with anyone who will listen to me.
It seems like they have less doctors.
They have less doctors.
I go to the hospital.
Yep.
9 out of 10 times, I would get a nurse, what do you call them, a practitioner.
A nurse practitioner.
You're lucky to get one.
But
Yeah.
I had a sliced out my arm
Yeah.
that I had, needed like 12 stitches. My wife brings me over, we go into Needham
Yeah.
for one. And she says, the nurse comes in, they wheel me in, they see it's bleeding, they wrap something, let's hold it. Says, hold it, we gotta get the doctor. Unfortunately, it was on a Saturday, and I said, I waited in there 2 hours
Right.
before she moved the table back in with all the stuff on it. I says, oh, did you get the guy off the golf course?
Yeah.
And she looks at
So-
me, she
so
says, no, I'm gonna stitch it myself, and you can go to the doctor Monday.
Yeah.
And I said, why would I wanna go and have them check it Monday when he didn't do anything?
Yeah. So we need to talk about the healthcare workforce and where they are. You know, we also have many people who are healthcare providers who will not work under these current conditions. You know, it's too dangerous now, it's unsafe, and nobody signed up ever to harm a patient. And we are dangerously close to that for many people. You know. So did you and I just hear that bell ring? So that's the 8 o'clock bell. I have promised, your time is so precious. I'm so grateful that you share this time with me. I want to thank you for being here. It matters a great deal to me. I want to say thank you to the people that are on Zoom. I want to thank you to the people that are on Medfield Cable. And when I say that we have to keep talking to each other, we have to keep our hearts open, we have to look for facts, we have to improve the way we're speaking to each other. I am most sincere, and anyone who wants to reach out to me at any time, or to these extraordinary, talented, educated people that I work with, please do so. You know, if you've got an issue and you want to say, I want the facts, call us. If you want something in a budget, if you want to see what's in the budget, you want to see what's in legislation, you want to see where the discussion is, call my office. That's our job. And if at any time you feel, I am the call of last resort often, when people are just so frustrated, they don't know where to go, they don't know where to turn. When you feel like that, you call the state representative, you call me. I want that call. Thank you, everyone.